following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
1420 Sports Bar Podcast, for beer with sports talk and a whole lot more. Join host Brent Radlinski as he bellies up to the bar and gets the conversations going that'll make you think you're sitting in your local watering room. It's sports, beer, and shenanigans, so sit back, grab a few beers, and let's get in. The 1420 Sports Bar Podcast, for beer, sports talk, and a whole lot more. Tonight's show, as always, is brought to you by SeatGeek.com, the SeatGeek app. Use promo code 1420SEAT at SeatGeek.com today and save yourself $20 on your first purchase. Remember, we are part of the Belly Up Media Network. Go to BellyUpSports.com for all the great articles and other podcasts, such as The Corner Booth and my guys over there at Craft Brewed Sports every Tuesday night. And lots of great articles and lots of by our host, our guest tonight, Kevin Wilson, he's a senior writer at Belly Up Sports, fantasy sports aficionado, expert per se. Depends if you ask his bank account how that's going, but we can talk about that a little bit later on. Kevin, how you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing outstanding, Brent, and always pleased to be here, and I'm ready to get into it.
There we go. It's funny. You messaged me about 15 minutes ago saying, "Hey, I'm ready to do this." I'm like, did he forget we change the clock back? So I said 7 Mountain Standard Time. I thought, geez, did he just forget to turn the clock back? It's one of those things. No, but we're doing this. It's a lot of fun, Kevin. The World Series ended last Wednesday. Your Los Angeles Dodgers winners in 5 over my New York Yankees. We'll get into that in half a second, but I want to take you back to Wednesday night, maybe about the 4th inning. The Yankees had a commanding 5-0 lead. I know what I was already planning between my ears. What was going between your ears when it was 5-0 Yankees in the 4th?
I was planning, okay, so there's going to be a game 6, and I was thinking to myself, you know what? I'm a Dodger fan. Everybody knows that throughout, the cosmos. I don't hide that fact. I'm a Dodger guy. And so I was starting to think, well, how embarrassing would that be if the Dodgers became the first team ever to lose a 3-0 lead in the World Series? And so that's where I was kind of headed in, even though if they lost, they'd still be up 3-2, but the pressure would have been on the Dodgers entirely to put the Yankees away. So that's where I was headed.
Yeah, the thing that when you get to those kind of games and how those are, I remember back in 04 when the Yankees, obviously that epic collapse with the Red Sox, and then you've seen some in hockey history over the years. And it's an old saying that I have that I've come up with. I don't know if it's a Brent original or not, but you start thinking, I don't know who's going to win Game 6, but I will tell you who's going to win Game 7. And that's what I was thinking, because the Yankees were up, like, oh, we got this. Here we go. And as soon as Judge, and honest Kevin, as soon as Judge dropped that ball, because I was all fat and sassy sitting in my recliner downstairs watching the game. It's good. The Yankees are going to make a go back to LA. And then I got thinking, as soon as Judge dropped that ball, I wasn't fat and sassy anymore. I was on the edge of my seat. I knew in my heart of hearts, I've been watching baseball for a lot of years. Something clicked in my head. Maybe I'm just disgruntled Yankee fan after all these years, but something didn't feel right. And it turns out I was right.
Well, the interesting thing about that is one of our associates wrote an article saying that the Yankees deserve to lose. I thought that was a little harsh, because other than that error that he made, every other play in that inning was the Dodgers forced.
Yeah.
They hustled, and they made the Yankees make plays, which they didn't do. And so, but even after that, the Yankees didn't flush it down the drain saying, okay, we're done. They still took the lead. And so I got to give them credit, because they could have gave up in Game 4 after Freddie Freeman steps to the plate, first inning, hits the drive. It's 2-0. The Yankees haven't even batted yet. If you're the Yankees, you got to be, it would be human to say to yourselves, well, this just isn't our year. But they didn't, and they battled back and won that game going away. So I got to give them credit. It lows me to say that as a Dodger fan, but they didn't give it up. And so the Dodgers forced a lot of those things that the Yankees when they didn't make the plays, the Dodgers made them make plays, and they didn't.
And that's one thing I've said about like this analytics thing. Like you and I are a little more old school than the average baseball fan is now. And I'm
Yeah.
a big proponent of putting the ball in play and letting the other team make a mistake. And if you strike out, nothing happens. Right on the offensive side of the baseball. And I think that the Dodgers, that's what they do. They put the ball in play. They don't walk. They walk a lot, so they have a lot of base runners, and that helps. And so base runners to me are important. Balls in play are important, and not striking out is important. And that's what the Dodgers did just in that series alone against the Yankees. And I think it just came down to one team, and both teams they employ a lot of guys analytics wise, and both teams they play the analytics game. The teams are successful do, but the thing that the Yankees had in their other two series with Cleveland and with Kansas City is they could out talent the other team, and with the Dodgers, the Yankees couldn't out talent their mistakes.
Right. I agree with that 100% because like I said, other than the air, even then, a lot of guys that were on, because there was a guy on first. And after he dropped that ball, he could have picked it up and flipped it to second, and most guys probably would have been out.
Yeah.
Because he would have been closer to first. But no, he was close enough to second. Yeah. Tommy Edman was close enough to get in there. And then they forced the errant throw to third base because of hustle. And Mookie Betts busting out of the box. I don't know if Garrett Cole, even if he did cover the first base, if he would have beaten Mookie Betts to the bag. But you could tell right out of the gate he was charging down that line, and that's one of the things the Yankees didn't do. And it was mentioned that they need to go back to spring training because that's stuff that you need to fix, and that's fixable stuff. And it's unfortunate for them it happened at the greatest stage of all, but yeah. So you got to give some credit to the Dodgers people out there because they didn't play like they had a huge payroll. They made the teams make plays.
And that's exactly like I was went to the office next day at the ballpark there at Spit Stadium, and the pitching coach for the Bulls there, he was talking, and we were talking about why and how, and he came out and he's the next college pitcher at Washington University, and he said no. He says Garrett Cole lost that game by not covering first base. He says even like the college team up here that he coaches for, he says we practice that nonstop, and get over, and he just didn't. And you hear a lot of the talking heads like me and you are that it was such a hard inning for Cole, and he got the ground ball. He must have a sigh of relief, but it wasn't over yet. And the between the ears, that's when it really got to him. Like, oh, it's not over yet. And then because Cole battled back through all the errors, but all the runs scored after that by him not covering. And that because I thought when they got the two strikeouts, because Ohtani, he struck out in that inning, and they didn't get any runs across. Like, okay, yeah, good. And when that ground ball was hit, I was like, yeah. And then half a second later, I was like, oh no, it's not over yet. And then it just steamrolled from there.
It sure did. And Freddie Freeman stepped up there, and he showed up big every single time you needed him to. And then it was just on after that. Toscar Hernandez hit the bomb, the center field, and it was 5-5. And I was like rejuvenated, but then it was 6-5. You're like, okay, this is going to be one of those down to the last out kind of games. And then the Dodgers scored the 2 in the 8th, and Walker Buehler on the mound. Nobody could have possibly have seen that coming around. And because that harkens back to 88 when Orel Hershiser did that for the Dodgers. He came out of the bullpen to save a game. So hats off to – because Dave Roberts has probably been maligned more. Well, your manager might give him a run for his money, but he's been just if they don't win, he's got to go and everything else. But he pulled all the right levers and got them to where they needed to be to win that game.
Everybody always talk actually, I'll ask you this question. Ask some people about people the two teams to spend the most money, of course, in the World Series. Well, you know what? Go out and spend some money and go out and beat them then. Like, quit complaining about that kind of stuff. Like, you just because you spend a bunch of money doesn't guarantee you always win.
No,
As you know, as a Dodger fan, it doesn't. And you have
it
to. And
doesn't.
other teams have a chance to go out. Like I've said this before with some guys on past shows just recently that the owner of Cleveland's like the fifth richest guy in the United States. Go out and sign one pitcher. Go and spend $40 million because you have the dough to do it. So, but when you have franchises that are willing to do it, and you think about how much money the Dodgers made with ticket sales throughout the playoffs, how much money they made with hot dog sales, Dodger dogs, and on it goes. The same with the Yankees; they got those 3 home games. How much money they made throughout the playoffs. You got to spend money to make money. And as dumb as that sounds in the business world, it obviously transitions into the world of professional sports. And what's your thoughts? Like, what was this World Series good for baseball, bad for baseball, or just was it indifferent?
It would. I gotta figure it's got to be good for baseball because you had the 2 largest markets in it.
Mhm.
And despite the fact that, because right when Game 1 came around, I posted this saying, "Hey, the wait is finally over. World Series is here. Who's ready for some baseball?" And I got all this negative stuff about who cares, and it's a bot World Series and blah 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 blah. As if it had been better if the Mets had gotten in there, because the Mets have the highest payroll in all of baseball. So
Yeah.
you're not helping your argument there. And I'm getting, and I said this on Vince's show when I previewed the World Series over there. Baseball is out of the last 11 world champions, 9 different teams have claimed a World Series championship.
Yeah.
No other sport can claim that. Not the NFL, not NBA, even though they're getting a little with Denver and Toronto and all that, but we're not that far removed from the Warriors and Cleveland going to the NBA Finals 4 straight seasons. So if you're, 'cause I'm from Utah originally, so I'm a Utah Jazz fan because until this year it was the only team around. Okay. What chance do they have of winning the NBA championship during those years? 0. So if we could stop with this, they bought the championship because when you look at the Dodgers, right? At the trade deadline, they went out and got Flattery. He started Game 1 of the World Series.
Yeah.
They went out and they got Tommy Edman. And anybody could have had him for a bag of,
Nothing.
barbecue potato chips. Okay. And nobody else but the Dodgers did that. And so they never get any credit. And the Yankees also, because it used to be George Steinbrenner would just sign guys and that was the end of it. But now both teams have, a farm system. So you can make moves like that. And so the Dodgers didn't win this because they spent the most money. They won this because they went out and got some complementary players to supplement that. And that was a whole team effort that got them there. And the Padres were 1 game away from putting the Dodgers out for the
Yep.
second time in 3 years with Game 4 in San Diego, and they didn't score a run the rest of the way. So please stop that. And the Brewers had a chance to put the Mets down with 2 outs left and didn't do it. So other teams have had a chance. I mean, the Yankees haven't been there since 2009, right? The Dodgers and the Yankees haven't faced each other since I was in high school.
1981. I remember. I
1981. I was
remember
in
quite
high
well. I was
school the
7 years
last
old. I
time that
remember
happened.
quite well. Yeah.
Yeah, so that reveals my age a little bit right there. I was in high school in 1981, but I've been a Dodger fan since I was a sophomore in high school. So I am what I am, and other people can say, "Well, I don't want you on my show because you're a Dodger fan." I don't care. I'm a Dodger fan, and that's the end of it. So I think I like where baseball is going, and there are teams like Kansas City, right? They've won a World Series in the last 10 years.
Yep.
And they made the playoffs, and they beat the Yankees in Yankee Stadium in that 1 game. So teams have had chances, and they didn't get it done. So, oh well for you.
You talked about Freddie Freeman earlier on, and I mean how disgruntled he was when he didn't sign back with the Braves, and that deal went sideways when he's a free agent, and how it all went about. We can talk about that for hours on end, but it must be a bit of redemption for Freeman, who seems like a really good guy, seems like a great teammate, seems like a guy that everybody should have on their team or would want on their team. What's your thoughts on Freddie Freeman, Canadian roots, and the whole bit with his mother's Canadian? I always got to sneak that one in there for you, Kevin. But
Well,
it's Freeman seems like just a really, really good guy, and to see a guy who says all the right things and does all the right things and plays the game the right way and always got a smile on his face, for him to get the World Series MVP, as a baseball fan, as a sports fan, you can't think of a better outcome, really.
no, you can't if you divest yourself of your fandom, which is pretty hard to do. But I try to do that when I'm actually, analyzing whatever it is that I'm analyzing. But Freddie Freeman, he overcame a lot because in the middle of the year he had the issue with his son and everything, and overcame all that. And then he had a severely injured ankle where he couldn't even play in 2 games in the National League Championship Series. And I predicted before the World Series began, if Freddie Freeman plays, Dodgers win it in 6. If he doesn't play up to his standards, I still had the Dodgers in 7, but he did play. And we all know what he did. He homered in 6 straight World Series games.
That's insane.
And it's insane. You're talking about some of the great guys that have ever played, like, Reggie Jackson and guys like that. Never did that. And so he deserved that MVP and produced, like I said, every time that the Dodgers needed something, he stepped up. And that first game we knew, because his first at bat, what did he do? He tripled. And so that told you right there his ankle was okay. And so that set the tone, I think, for the Dodgers the rest of the series.
You look at that Dodger team, and like everybody was talking about, maybe they didn't have the pitching staff to do it, and by all accounts, they really didn't match up well with the Yankees. Like if you wanted to get down to it and get to the bullpen, that's what the game of baseball is nowadays. Because starting pitching now was just, I don't know if you agree with me on this one. Starting pitching is now just there's out eaters. To get me 15 outs, and we'll get to the arms in the bullpen, and we'll call it good. And I thought that Roberts managed it really well when he kind of took a dive in Game 4, saying, you know what, we're not winning this game. Like we had the bullpen game, and then it started getting out of hand, and then left what was his name in there in the 8th. Just left him out there to die, basically.
Right.
We're not going to waste another arm here. We got 3 more to do this. I thought that was a really smart move by Roberts, knowing that we only have this many pitchers. We don't have another starter. We don't have this. I thought that's where Roberts was really good.
I thought so as well. And it turned out to be the absolute right move, because the next game, Flattery was out in the 2nd inning.
Yeah.
And so if he had used, 67 pitchers in Game 4, then who would he have turned to in that situation? And so that was key, I think. And every decision that he made, can't criticize any of it. And so he's like I said, he's been maligned more than just about anybody out there in manager wise in baseball, even though he's been to the playoffs every year. He's been a Dodger manager. And so he made that right move, like you said, in Game 4, just saying, hey, you're going to get pummeled. Your ERA is going to be 71.48 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And take it on the chin. And that's exactly what happened. So I thought the Yankees had the absolute supreme advantage in their starters. But then you look at Yamamoto, and then Buehler and Flattery in Game 1. There was like 3 runs that they allowed in those 3 games.
I didn't have looking the matchups. I thought because Cole was great. Let's not he made the mistake by not covering first base, and he
Right.
didn't get he got one earned run in 12.1 innings pitched in the World Series. That's you harken back to 1988. That's Earl Hershiser numbers. Really,
it is.
it's
It is.
okay. That's it. And so when your ace does that, I can't remember who I was talking to on Saturday, but realistically, the Yankees should have been up 3-2 because they blew game one the way Boone handled that situation, and then obviously in game five the way they handled the way that turned out, the Yankees should have been up 3-2 going back to LA the way it really was. Like realistically, if you take your fandom out of things, if you're just a baseball fan watching, there was, to me, looking back a week and a half now, the Yankees should have been up 3-2, playing on Friday night no matter what, and then having a hell of a game 7 on Saturday.
Yep, you're right about that. Stanton showed up big in that first game, and they were right there. And all of a sudden, it's tied. Yankees take the lead in the 10th, 1 out away from securing that first game. And if they had split either of those games, that's a whole different series after that. But
it's too bad. As great of a series it was too short. 5 is 5 is 5. But if that would have been a 6 or a 7, it would have been fantastic. Going back to LA, that would have been just electric. And if the Dodgers win at that point, the Yankees win at that point, it would have been just because Friday night, Chavez Ravine, Los Angeles Dodgers, Yankees. Baseball fans, actually not even baseball fans, sports fans were robbed a little bit of a great Friday night.
Yep, they were, and that's when I got to put my fandom glasses back on because I was, you know what I'm saying? I was glad that didn't happen, and so I'm a fan, and so I don't want the games to go to the 7th game and the score tied or whatever going into the 9th inning because that happens because I'm a Seahawk guy as well, and so. When they blew the doors off the Broncos, that was one of the greatest games I've ever watched, even though it was a bad football game.
Sit back and relax and enjoy it. Right?
Sit back, and I enjoyed that entire game. Then 1 year later, they're playing the Patriots, much better game, and I still don't get why they threw the ball at the goal line. But I was absolutely furious. My jersey came off and threw it on the floor, and I was upset. And so that's not what I'm looking for as a fan. And so I was glad that didn't happen. The Dodgers put it away, so I was, able to relax. And my wife ordered me my Dodger, World Series champion shirt, which should be here any day now. And her brother is a Yankees fan, so she went out and bought each of us. That's what I'm wearing right here, a World Series shirt with the Yankees and Dodgers on it.
Nice.
And so we were able to wear our shirts at the same time, so that was pretty cool. But I'm glad that I got my shirt ordered and the Dodgers won it, and so as a fan, that was what I was looking for.
When you win a world championship, and I think maybe because I'm a baseball dork more than I am the other sports. Like I'm a hockey guy, obviously up here in Canada.
Yeah.
But when you win yourself a World Series, you're a part of forever. Because I think baseball fans, they're more true to their team a little bit. They follow from generation to generation, and on it goes. And it's not so much. We talked off air a little bit. It's not so much about fantasy. It's not so much about betting. When you're a baseball fan of a team, that's yours. And when you win a world championship, because it hasn't happened, it happened in 2020, but then 88 was before that, and so it goes. But when now these guys and Dave Roberts, he's pretty much got a free pass for the rest of his career. He can pretty much almost, I don't want to say a Lasorda, but he can pretty much say, okay, he'll dictate when he's done.
That's right.
You know what? I got my 04 World Series in Boston. This guy's resume is all of a sudden pretty big. If I don't know, you think about it, without that stolen base in Game 4 in 2004, the Red Sox don't win. And then now he's got that with the second largest franchise in baseball, Dave Roberts franchise. This guy's got himself almost a Lasorda-esque pass to say when he's done, he's done. I don't think he'll ever get fired.
No. he'd have to go out there and pretty much flip off somebody on camera, something like that.
Yeah.
And he's got a lifetime stay. And like I said, what more could you have asked for the guy who's been to the playoffs every single year and won 100 games, multiple times? But the reality is only one team can win.
Yeah.
Whatever sport we're talking about, only one team can win. And so he's got it now. And people can they could shut up about how the Dodgers weren't legitimate in 2020, which I think that's nonsense. But so now we don't even have to worry about that
Yeah,
because
this
they've
shuts everything
got
up.
a full season championship. So everybody else just shut it.
And they haven't really said how hurt Ohtani was in this World Series and whether his shoulder was bad, obviously after that slide in Game 2, I think it was, and he was basically non-existent. So he worse than Judge, like what the stats would say, but he was hurt, and I get it. So that's what kind of makes this people forget about that is that they did it with basically a 7-man batting order because it's just the way it worked. Ohtani was non-existent. He was their $70 million guy. I know he's only making $1 million in real money right now, but they did it without the big dog a lot. And you think about it, it was the Freeman show and Betts was out there, and then the bits and pieces and parts. Like if when we did the Belly Up Super Show to start the season, Ohtani, and then to do it without their big dog doing anything, it's even more impressive actually.
It is, and especially when you consider who was batting cleanup for the Dodgers. Tommy Edman.
Yeah.
I don't think that guy's, 5'10". All right. And I was super big. Vince and I have a show, and when he went to the Dodgers, I was on board with that completely, even though he wasn't healthy at the time. But he got his way back there. He's got versatility like nobody's business. He plays the right way. And he powered them when they need him. Like I said, he was the guy that made it to second when Aaron Judge made that error. He made it to third to force the errant throw to third base, and just as the pass all the way around, plays wherever you need him to. So that's the kind of move that winning organizations make.
Yeah, it was a great series. Like all in all, like I said, it should have, could have, but at the end of the day, they didn't. The Yankees didn't. The Dodgers did, and that's what it comes down to. And that winning championships is hard. And the Dodgers didn't have an easy go of it. I think and San Diego, people forget that San Diego had if they would have had Juan Soto, who knows? But they didn't. But San Diego's got a heck of a club down there, and they're proverbial lick in the jar for a lot of years now too. So it's not an easy run, no matter how much you spend. And I always laugh at they spend so much, but now you're like when you spend a bunch of money, you got a bunch of egos. And and this goes back to the Torre years with the Yankees. He had a lot of personalities that he had to get at bats, that he had to do this. And Robert's the same way. You're massaging egos at this point because a lot of these guys, with the way athletes are now, they play for themselves a lot more than they do for a team. So to get all these guys to come together who are rich beyond their ever beliefs, for Robert to put that together and management to do as well, bench coaches and on and on. I think there's a lot more effort that managers and coaches have to put together to make these guys meld together personally. That's my thoughts on that.
I agree with that, especially because managers now have more interference, if you want to call it that, from these analytics people. And so, you've got all these people telling you this is what you need to do, blah, 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 blah. The players are telling you, well, this is what we want to do, da, 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 da. How do you marry all that together and produce something worthwhile? And Dave Roberts did exactly that. And the Padres are interesting team because I've been to that stadium.
Fantastic.
It's a fantastic stadium. I've been there. I was in San Diego for many years, and I've been to the other stadium. But this new one that they get 40,000 people in there every single game. So if you want to sit there and
I think
complain,
I've been to 20. I think that one's my top 3 probably. I love it.
yeah, it's a great stadium. 40,000 fans in there every single game, and so people, uh, uh, you know, they're spending money. Well, they have 40,000 people in the stadium. The Dodgers have almost 50,000 every single game,
Yeah.
and so if they're in there, whether the Dodgers are winning, because remember in the '90s, the Dodgers were pretty garbagey.
Yeah.
Okay, they were, and so, but they've got a loyal fan base, and yep. And so eventually they were able to turn that around, and they brought the guy in from Tampa. He knows how to build, Freeman,
Yeah.
however you say his name, anyways. And so they built the team, and they spent money. If they have money, what are you supposed to do? Sit on your hands, okay? But they spent, they went out and they got, signed some players, and anybody else can do that. And I don't think baseball needs a cap. I think they need a floor more than anything else, so that
That's a
teams like Pittsburgh will spend money to field a competitive team.
That's a really good
And
segue, Kevin, into what I want to talk about. I want to get your thoughts on a little bit, because you're out there in the West Coast area ish, and a team that a lot of hearts were broken the end of September there when the Oakland A's played their last games in Oakland. Allegedly, it's not a done deal yet. There's still a lot of tape to jump around. That whole thing stinks to high hell. Like you said, the way that you can spend some money. These guys are rich. These owners can do it. There's a way to sign players. I've talked to multiple people on the show a lot about this Oakland A's fiasco, and the fiasco's become a fiasco with a capital F now, not just a lowercase f. The way it's because I never thought of this until I read something yesterday. I can't remember even where I read it. They're going to have trouble fielding a major league team now, because now you can't sign free agents because you've been playing a minor league ballpark for a 3 years in Sacramento. They're going to be non-competitive even more so than before. So, and on it goes. What's your thoughts on this whole Oakland A's fiasco with John Fisher and everything else, the way it all worked out? Because we'll talk about the positives of baseball in the World Series, but let's talk about the negatives of it. And because this whole Oakland A's thing, it's awful. It's awful the way this thing turned out.
It stinks. And when I was in the Navy, we made a couple of different trips to San Francisco. I've been to the Oakland Coliseum. I've seen the A's play there, and I saw how the fans reacted to the team. And it's just unfortunate to me that that's what happened to the city of Oakland. And given the fact that they won 3 World Series in a row in the '70s. Then they had the Bash Brothers and everything. They went to 3 World Series in a row in the late '80s, and so it's a franchise that has history and everything else, and just it's gotten to the point where it's like a Looney Tunes scenario, because they're going to be playing. And I was looking this up today, that they're not even going to have a name as like Sacramento. They've taken Oakland completely out of the equation now. They're simply Athletics, and that's it. And the way this whole thing began, I thought this deal was going to get done relatively easy when they were going to play in Las Vegas. It still isn't done.
Still not done.
Still not done. And it's interesting, because before this, I always kind of thought Sacramento was up there, Wine Valley, and you got guys kicking back and they're drinking their, whatever, kind of wines it is. But it's 100 degrees in Sacramento during the summer. I did not know that.
Yep.
And so this is not going to be an enjoyable experience for anyone, not the fans, not the players, whomever they get in there. And they may never get to Vegas. And even if they did, Vegas has the smallest fan base that they can draw from of any team there is. The Raiders, because of the Raiders, have made it work, because they get everybody to fly in there, though.
That's exactly it, Kevin. It's 1 day a week. It's 1 day a week.
That's right.
maybe 9 times a year, depends on how the schedule works. They can get people to jump on a Southwest Airlines from Oakland, from wherever, LA, 45-minute flight back and forth. They'd be home at night. They'd be home that night.
That's
Go
right.
watch the game, right?
Trust me, I know.
Baseball's 81 games.
That's
You're going to
right.
try to fill that place.
Who's going to go to a baseball game in Las Vegas on a Wednesday night? Who? Nobody. That's who. And you're exactly right, because it's a 4-hour flight from LA to Las Vegas. I've made it, so I do know how far. No, you know what? It's an hour. It's a 4-hour drive from LA, right? So you just hit the road, right? If you don't want to fly there, you just hit the road and you drive. You get there on a Saturday night. You get a $22 hotel room, whatever, and then and you just wait till the next day and you go to a game and party down, whatever. And then as soon as the game's over, you hit the freeway back and you're in LA by Monday morning. That is a fan experience that people can get behind.
And that's the thing, Kevin, is that baseball fans are regional for their team in their town, right? And
right.
If a person moves from let's say from Chicago to LA, they're still a Cubs fan. Or St. Louis, from St. Louis to New Orleans, they're still a St. Louis fan. Nobody, you don't, it's just not going to work. You're not going to have homegrown A's fans in LA. Hockey worked because hockey, it was a brand new toy, and the Golden Knights have been fantastic. They've already won a Stanley Cup. They've been successful beyond belief on and off the ice, because it was a brand new toy. Baseball's different. Baseball is such a different beast, where it's so regional that I can't see it working in the heat. There's too much to do. People don't travel of it. Like it's just a different demographic that travels to Vegas in the summertime. Like I'm like for hockey, like another reason why the hockey team does so well, there's packages that like out of Calgary, out of Edmonton, out of Winnipeg, out of Vancouver, out of St. Louis that go for, if the Golden Knights have a game, people make a weekend out of it. Tour groups, on and on it goes. They ain't getting that out of a baseball team. They're just not.
No, and so I don't know if this guy, is having trouble sleeping. I'm talking about the owner of the A's, right? And he's sitting there and he's 2:00 in the morning and the lights burning holes in his eyes, whatever. But whatever caused him to come up with this idea, it's too late for it to put the genie back in the bottle, to me. And so I just don't see how this is going to work out for anyone. I'm not a fan of the A's. I won't pretend to be one, but I feel bad for the team. I feel bad for the fan base there, because now Oakland. What does Oakland have? They have nothing.
Nothing.
They don't even have the Warriors anymore.
They moved to San Francisco.
That's right. And there was one time where the A's and the Warriors, because I've been there, they were right there. Both of those stadiums were right next to each other.
Yeah. And
now they have nothing. And so, Oakland, I'm it's rare that I don't really know what to say, but I really don't know what to say about this. Besides, you're in the ditch. And so, maybe he deserves everything he's going to get coming off this deal, but everybody else associated with it's just too bad.
What's scary to me is that the way that other owners didn't reject this deal. They didn't say a thing, and I get it. I understand it, because they didn't want to get blocked later on if something goes wrong with their team. Right, you look at the Chicago White Sox. They're already sniffing around New Orleans, which would be a shame for people in Chicago. Yes, there's two teams there, but the White Sox have been there. The White Sox been around forever. So the other owners didn't block this deal because they want the opportunity to leave if the situation arises where things don't go very well. Because professional sports makes money, obviously, even when nobody goes. Like they still make money, and so other owners to not. And this is the dark side of sports, Kevin. But for owners,
it really is.
For owners to basically say, and then say it out loud to fan bases, we don't care about you.
That's right.
If we get a chance to move, if something doesn't go our way, we'll leave too. And it's happened so much more in the last 20 years than it did in the previous 20 years, where they just up and gone. Even it's happened in the NFL how many times? And they the NFL prints money, and they go, nope, that's not enough. We're going somewhere else. And and how owners nowadays compared to how it used to be, they're saying it out loud now. They're telling fan base, if you don't come, if you don't spend money, if you don't buy the $40 hot dogs and $20 beers and the chicken buckets, the owners are now saying out loud to fan bases, we'll leave. We don't care about you at all.
That's right. And it's just really too bad that sports are in this scenario. Oakland, I guess I got to figure this out, just like with the Cleveland Guardians. I need to figure out how to not call them the Indians anymore, but because Oakland's out of it now, and so the athletics, okay, anything to do with it's like a 4-letter word right now.
Yeah,
and so it's just there's nothing good about any of this at all.
No, it's scary. It's scary to think that even the most successful franchise will say, you know what, I got an offer. I can go here and make some more money. It's crazy how the fans are left to hold in the bag, and when it's all said and done. Let's get off the negative stuff, Kevin.
Okay.
Talk about free agency coming up. The big dog out there, obviously, Juan Soto. I didn't personally care for his post-game comments. I don't know if you saw them the next day, or the way he basically said, it's wide open. I'm going to go with basically the highest bidder. Every team has a chance. And just like and that, everybody knows. That's what it is. I get it. I understand. If someone wants to pay me more over here, I'm going to go there. That's how working man does it too, right? If you're a plumber or an athlete, you're just going to go where the most money is. I get it. But he didn't have to say it as soon as the World Series was over.
No, I mean,
and like Garrett Cole did it in 2020, I think it was, when they lost the World Series, and he had the Team Boris hat on. Give your fan base a chance to be
right?
sad and not just compound on it.
Yeah. And especially when he said all the teams have a chance to sign me. That's false.
That's 4 teams, maybe 5.
Bag of nonsense ever, because he's not going to, let's say, Miami. He's not going to Tampa. Okay, he's Kansas City had a great season, but he's not going there.
He's not going to Pittsburgh.
Right?
He's not going to Detroit.
He's not going to Pittsburgh.
Kansas City. He's not going to Colorado. He's not going to Arizona. He's not going to Seattle. He's not going to somebody in my office said Toronto today, and I called him dumb because he's not going to Toronto either. Like there's 5, 6 teams maybe.
Right. And the interesting thing about this is, let's say that you're one of the other outfielders, like Santander or Toscar Hernandez.
Yeah.
You might as well strap in, because full well no team is going to sign you until Soto lands somewhere. Okay?
Yeah.
If there's a team has a chance of signing Soto, even if it's not realistic, they're not going to sign one of these other guys. They're not going to do it. So, and Soto has the guy that he'll bleed everybody. It'll be interesting to see how Scott Boras, as he got thrown down a flight of steps a couple of times this past winter.
That's true.
And so how does he approach
get the money that he thought he was going to get?
No, he didn't.
The Montgomery deal turned out quite bad for Arizona, but
it sure did. And I thought before, we talked about it, on the pre-baseball, season show. I liked both of those signings, not realizing that people kind of blow off spring training, but it's needed. And those two guys showed that, because they weren't ready for the season, and Jordan Montgomery wasn't ready the whole way. And so it'll be interesting to see how that works out with the super agent this winter, and what happens with his clients this year.
Where do you think Soto goes?
Well, I don't, and it's the same thing with Pete Alonso, right?
Yeah.
You're in the biggest market in the world, so where else are you going to go? And especially with Pete Alonso, he's been there all these years. So sometimes that huge market is not what a player, it doesn't suit him. We've seen that before where guys have gone to the Yankees and have completely cratered and went somewhere else, and it's
Pinstripes are
worked out.
heavy, Kevin. Pinstripes are heavy. Yeah.
That's right. They absolutely are, because they're the pinstripes. How do you gonna Reggie Jackson and the Babe and goes all the way back there,
Yeah.
and so, but Soto, I think he stays in New York. That makes the most sense to me because he can get the most money there, and he's in that big market.
Where in New
And
York, though? That's the question. Because their owner's got some pretty deep pockets.
that's true.
That's
So
the only kicker.
yeah, so a lot, like I said, a lot of these free agents are going to need to get comfortable in their go ahead and lean back into your chair, because no one's big is going anywhere until Soto finds a place, and then the floodgates will probably open, and then we'll see where some of these other guys wind up.
I think your Dodgers are in a pretty good spot. I think they're in a very good spot right now. You think about who they didn't have pitching for. We talked about earlier on who they didn't have pitching for them in these playoffs, and how their starting pitching wasn't great in the World Series. They got a couple of guys coming back next year. I think the Dodgers are in a very good spot, Kevin, next year to do something that hasn't happened in a long time. The world of professional baseball is a repeat. What's your thoughts on next year's Dodgers? Because they're one guy alone coming back to pitch next year. Ohtani's going to pitch next year a little bit. That doesn't hurt. That doesn't hurt your team.
No, how could it not help? Okay, and so it would be extraordinarily. I appreciate Clayton Kershaw and everything that he's done for the Dodgers and gave to them, but he's got a player option, so he's going to sign that. I would rather him just retire and
right
go
off the sunset, 100%.
Right off in the sunset, somewhere around here. He's from somewhere in Texas.
Yeah.
Okay. So just go ahead and retire. And the Dodgers can go ahead and build their staff, not having to worry about some guy whose arm's going to break down by June 1st. But that's not here. That's not going to happen, because he's got a player option. It's not up to the team. He's going to sign it. And then what do they do with like Bueller? And because they refuse to give him the offer, the qualifying offer, so he can go wherever he wants. But even though he showed up in the World Series, his season was really in the ditch, coming back off injury. So it's not. He needs to sign a 1-year deal, and then find out. Hey, I'm healthy, and I'm going to go out and be the Bueller of old.
That's a good point. Yeah.
And so, so the Dodgers got pitching options, and so I don't see them making a move really. I've heard Max Fried's name, or Fried, or however he pronounces his name, going to the Dodgers, and he's left-handed, so I kind of like that. But if they want to go ahead and do that, because you can never have enough starting pitching. We've seen that. The Texas Rangers proved that a year ago. So it'll be interesting to see how this free agency, gets rolling. But Soto is the key to just about everybody else that plays positional. Because if you're going to sign Soto, then you're pretty much out after that.
Kevin, you and I, you've been watching baseball a couple more years than I have, just because you've been alive a little longer than I have. Not a big deal, but and we've seen the ups and downs, all around of baseball, and it's evolved over the years and how it's changed, and it's if you go through the pantheon of sports in the United States and up here into Canada as well, baseball's probably it's behind the NFL for sure. It's behind college baseball or college football. For sure. Is baseball 3 in the world of big time sports, or where is it? And is baseball in a good spot, bad spot, mediocre spot? What do you think about that?
Well, I think it's not in a bad spot. Maybe I think, so I saw the numbers, and the World Series beat the NBA Finals. As far as viewers, I was really surprised, just based off I guess maybe they're blowing smoke, oh, we're not watching this because we have no interest in either team, whatever. Well, it turned out that wasn't true. There's a lot of people that did, in fact,
A
watch
lot.
this World Series. And so I think baseball is in a pretty good spot. They don't have to worry about so much, any which has disrupted baseball, back in the day with, I'm going to go on strike and whatever else. They don't have that worry. And so there's a lot of teams they could talk about competitive imbalance, but there are a lot of teams that have a shot that are outside the Beltway. Let's look at Detroit. They had the best pitcher in all of baseball on their team this year.
Mm-hmm.
And they had him on the mound in Game 5 against Cleveland. So they could have won that game. Then he wound up on one pitch giving up more runs than he'd given up in a month.
It's crazy.
It
That
is.
was crazy how there's our season. One pitch.
There it is. And so that's exactly what I'm saying.
That's the great thing about baseball. I love it. That's just,
baseball, you can crater. And one of the things I like about baseball, unlike professional football, if you win a series, you can righteously claim that you're the best team because you won, whether it's 3 out of 5, 4 out of 7, whatever. Football, you don't always get the best team winning because you could have the best team, but your punt returner fumbles the ball, the other team recovers, and they win the game. They could probably play 10 times, and this happened to the 49ers a few years back against the Giants. They fumbled 2 punts, Giants recovered, and won the game. And they could probably play 10 games, and the 49ers beat them probably 8 times, maybe 9. But not that day. So if a team wins the championship, they're the best team. They earned it. They showed it. And that's one of the things I really like about baseball, along with the NBA and the NHL. Whoever wins it, earned it. And so I like that a lot. So I think baseball is in a pretty good space right now. You've got lots of fans that are interested, lots of fans that got crushed, like up in Seattle, right? Because they had the best pitching staff of any team out there by far.
They're terrible.
But couldn't score a run to save their life.
For a month?
For a month.
Yeah.
So I like where baseball is, and so I'm not just saying that because I'm a fan of baseball, but I like what I've seen. Like I said, I'm very involved in it. We do a show every week during the season, so I pay attention to it a lot. So I like what I'm seeing out of baseball right now.
No, it's you talked about it, how hard it is to win like a World Series, and me and a few buddies were having a few beers talking about this last week about like the NFL, because it's just different. Like NFL, if you win a wild card game, then a divisional game, then a championship game, then the Super Bowl, you have to win 4 games. In hockey, that means you just won a round. You got to do that 4 times. You got to do that 4 times. It's tough. And like obviously we're a little bit hockey centric, a little more biased towards the game of hockey up here compared to a lot. But man, oh man, to win a Stanley Cup, it's a lot compared to the NFL. The physical, like everything, there's a lot to winning a Stanley Cup in comparison to a Super Bowl. It's funny the way that turns out, because it's
it really is, because I remember years ago. I'm not an ice skater, okay?
Yeah.
Not. And I tried it one time, and I was blown away on how difficult it is. I just can't imagine those guys getting out there and skating around there for 3 hours straight. And so,
it's crazy.
I have
crazy.
mad respect for hockey players. Before I came out here to the Dallas area, I was not into hockey, okay, not into it.
Yeah.
But the Stars here have kind of, they brought me in, and it's a whole lot more exciting than soccer. That's another, subject I guess we can get into maybe, whenever. But right. But you can go to a soccer game and there's 5 shots on goal the whole game. That's it.
Yeah.
Go to a hockey game and you get 26 shots on goal. So you're right
And
in there.
That's one thing I've never understood about Americans. Like up like the Northeast, they watch it a lot. But other than that, hockey wasn't big. This is like this 10, 15, 20 years ago, whatever it is. I never understood why Americans didn't grasp the game of hockey. It's fast. There's violence. There's fighting. There's all of it. 'Cause that's right up your guys' alley. All that kind of stuff.
And I've come over because, like I said, I was hockey blows. Okay, that was my attitude when I came out here. And that's 3 years ago now. I came, or somewhere in there. Anyways, and so we've come to the point where my wife and I have had partial season tickets to the Stars, and we go and it's a great time at a hockey game. And you could sit over there and when they score the goal and that horn goes off.
Yeah.
What better feeling is there except for Dodgers winning the World Series? Okay. So I'm big time into the hockey thing now. Much more because I was big on NBA and not so much anymore. And so hockey's taken over big time over the NBA to me in this household anyway. So I'm with you on that. So I'm down with the hockey. I'm down with baseball, and I'm a fantasy guy. So probably got to be into the NFL.
Yeah.
And stuff. But so I'm very happy with where baseball is, and I'm ready to get. We're gonna look at what 3 months, 4 months.
Pitchers and catchers.
No baseball. No baseball.
We're a long ways away from baseball. Well, that was the thing. Like I was sitting here on Saturday, and then there's no game tonight. Like it was just there's
That's
no
right.
game tonight. Like it's just because I'll watch the Royals and the Tigers on a Saturday afternoon. I don't care. It's a game. Like there's no baseball. It's just it was really quite strange. So no, I agree with you, Kevin. Like I think baseball's in a much better spot than it was. Just the guys I'm around a little bit more. I think there's people that are in their 18 to 25 range who are watching more. Like I really believe that they're watching more and following it more. There's more ways to follow the game and watch the game. And I think the brand of baseball isn't as good as it was 30 years ago with the contact and things. Like it's just a different brand of baseball. Because to me, strikeouts are boring. That's just me. Balls in play and things happening like the Dodgers were doing. Balls in play are great. But I don't think baseball's in a bad spot. Like I don't think it's in a great spot, but I don't think it's in a bad spot.
No, I don't think so either. And one of the reasons why that was kind of sliding off in the bad spot generation is because hitting coaches aren't teaching guys how to go the other way. And that's why you had to have, the shift bands and all this stuff, which I was opposed to. I don't like, I don't like that, but hit the ball the other way. And that takes care of that whole scenario.
Done.
But they just won't teach guys how to go the other way.
Mark Teixeira's career ended because of it. Just wouldn't.
That's right. That's right.
Down, but basically he just wouldn't. He just wouldn't hit it the other way. Take that outside
Wouldn't
pitch,
do it.
just poke it out there. And I've never understood that. Like hitting's hard no matter what. But
right. It's the hardest thing to do in sports.
But to say that you have a better chance of tying it up with one swing of the bat and having two guys on or stringing together 3 hits, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous to me. Because there's not many home run hitters, right?
And I was thought about this because let's say a guy like Tony Gwynn, right? If he shifted on him, he'd hit 800. Okay?
Well, I remember Gary Sheffield saying something along those lines too. He said, like, if I wanted to, I'd hit 600. I would just hit it here and hit it there, but I got paid to hit home runs, right? So. Like it's just 600 is pretty lofty, obviously, but I don't disagree with it. Like it's like, I mean, Sheffield liked himself quite a bit too, but I don't disagree with guys who say that because some guys have a knack for hitting, and if they want it, they poke it over here and poke it over here. But you get paid to hit home runs, you get paid to hit home runs, right? So it's one of those.
It's basically a left-handed hitter phenomenon because right-hand hitters they didn't shift on them. So they have an easier way going the other way. than left-handers do, but still, you've got the whole left side. Hit the ball over there, and you don't. It's not like you have to bunt. Okay, hit the ball hard, you'll be on second base. So that's something I've been beating the drum about for about 2 or 3 years now. But
it was funny during the playoffs there. Like there was steals, bunts, and this and hit and runs. I was like, that's baseball. And look what happened. The Dodgers won the World Series because they did all the little things right. You know, my wife, she's become more of a baseball person since all this stuff and everything else, and she watched a lot more because she's a Jays fan, and she was into it a little bit. But then when the Jays went, they were running 2015 and 16. Like, hey, this is great. I said, yeah, it's a great sport to watch. It's fun. And then she goes, small ball wins, and sure, sure as shit, it's what happened. It's crazy to think. Kevin, we'll take a little break here. We'll come back with 5 easy questions.
Okay.
There we go.
Righteous Felon Craft Jerky is the official jerky of Belly Up Sports. For over a decade, Righteous Felon Craft Jerky has led the American meat snack revolution by concocting delicious, adventurous, U.S.-sourced jerky recipes for uncompromising carnivores across the country. With 15 different flavors to choose from, Righteous Felon has all jerky lovers covered, and by using promo code BELLYUP, you will get 15% off your purchase at righteousfelon.com. Do your taste buds a favor today and rip into a bag of Righteous Felon jerky.
Thanks to our friends over at Righteous Felon Jerky, longtime sponsors of the Belly Up Media Network. Go to righteousfelon.com for their best in craft jerky and get yourself 15% off using promo code Belly Up. They don't ship it to Canada, but whenever I go down to Montana, I pick something and bring it back. It's great stuff.
I can say with confidence that I'm not, because we sponsor that on our show as well, and I'm not just a sponsor, I'm also a client. And they have excellent jerky. So if you're even thinking about getting some, do it. Do it today.
Up. It's very tasty stuff. Find a way to get it across the border in Canada, or when you're down there's like the American listeners, obviously you guys can get somewhere wherever it is. Go to righteousfelon.com, pick some up. 5 easy questions brought to you by Righteous Felon. You ready to go, Kev?
I'm ready.
Bigger home run, recency bias notwithstanding, Freddie Freeman or Kirk Gibson? I stumped you already.
Yeah, you said easy questions. I'm going to have to say Kirk Gibson, simply because the Dodgers were supposed to be overmatched in that World Series. And I watched that. That's my greatest sports moment of all time that I've ever witnessed.
I get shivers still every time I see it. I still hear
I do too.
Vin Scully every time. It was unbelievable because the A's were so good. But I remember watching the Hershiser run of 59 scoreless straight and everything else. But the A's were supposed to win that hands down. And Gibson's home run still gets your the hairs of my legs standing up on end right now. It's crazy.
That's right. So I'm going to go with Kirk Gibson.
When you button your shirt, do you go top to bottom or bottom to top?
I start at the top and go down.
That's the right answer. Otherwise,
okay. And then I don't know why I had such a hard time with that, because I wear a shirt with buttons on it every single day. So
it is weird, because if you start at the bottom, you go, but you can go this. Okay, yeah, and work your way down. You're good to go.
Work your way down, and then you put it in the pants, and
then you're good to go. See you later.
Good to go. Yeah.
Halloween just passed. A bunch of kids probably came to your door. A bunch of kids came to mine. What's your favorite candy bar?
My favorite candy bar, I'm going to say, is Snickers.
It really satisfies. There you go.
Really satisfies. And I'm one of those ones that love. It's one of my. Probably shouldn't. I love my candy. So, you bring something that's chocolatey, I'm down. But as you said, Snickers really satisfies. So
when we had kids at the door last on Thursday night, there I was like, I would get up to go, or my wife would get up to go, and I would be picking and choosing which ones I would want in my lunch tomorrow. Okay, you can have this one, kid. I'm taking this one. Like, one for me, one for you, kind of a deal. Next one. What doesn't belong on pizza?
There's several things that don't belong on pizza, but anchovies is my number one answer.
That's right.
Number two would be pineapples.
That's right.
Okay.
You've gotten more questions right on 5 easy questions than anybody in the history of 5 easy questions.
Okay.
And
bring on the power.
Last one. What athlete do you, I don't want to say hate, we don't hate here at the 1420 Sports Bar. What athlete do you dislike the most in the history of your watching sports?
Okay, so I'm going to say, as a Dodger fan, Barry Bonds.
I kind of knew
I
this
can
was
appreciate
coming. I don't know
his
one way or the other
greatness.
on this, but I kind of had a thought about this. Yeah.
Okay, I can appreciate his greatness, but I do realize, though, that if he had played 20 years earlier or 30 years earlier, him standing on the home, how he would crouch, and stand right on top of home plate,
Yeah.
the pitchers back in the day would not have had that, and they would have drilled him so friggin' hard.
Yeah.
And pitchers didn't do that in the modern era. And so, him and his ego and everything else. And I just, see, probably because he was a giant more than anything else. But Barry Bonds is my answer for a guy that I dislike the most.
I thought it was either going to be him or Pete Rose is what I thought your answer was going to be. That's
Well,
I thought.
Pete Rose was a sad individual.
Yeah.
And my thoughts on that have always been that he's passed. Okay. But he signed the agreement.
At the end of the day, that's it.
That's it. He signed the agreement. So I felt no sympathy for him whatsoever that he didn't get in the Hall of Fame, because he did it to himself. And all the greatness that he had before that, which he was great, no question. But he buried it all because he thought he was bigger in the game. And it's something that's anyone, you enter a clubhouse, there's the rules right there. That's how serious that is. And we could talk about, people doing the, steroids or whatever else, but it's spelled out loudly. If you bet on baseball, you're done. And he did that. So, oh well for him.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's just there's that documentary on HBO now. It's fantastic on Pete Rose. It's just it's sad. It's sad. Just,
it is. Because I hate to see somebody blow up their entire existence. But it's, they did it to themselves.
Greed and arrogance and all of it. Just, yeah.
It's kind of like, because I'm a rock and roll guy. Okay. And a lot of these guys, like Bon Scott and these guys, they did it to themselves.
Yeah.
And you hate to see that, but in the end, you're responsible for your own actions. And he never lived up to that. He beat around the bush, and he thought he was bigger, and I'm going to go to the Hall of Fame and sell my hats or whatever. And so, I was never behind him. Just about every other day, it seems like there's somebody comes out and says, Pete Rose belongs in the Hall of Fame. No, he does not.
That's the easiest barroom conversation. Okay, that's the easiest one. You want to get an argument with sports? Just say the two words, Pete Rose. 8 people will have 4 different ideas, and it's the easiest one. And I've always been on the side that you're on. He did it himself. Now I watch that documentary, I'm even more. It just solidifies my thought process on that, just the way it all.
And I always thought that he agreed to that ban because he knew full well if they'd investigated him further,
it's going to get worse.
It was going to get far, far worse than what it was. So he agreed to that, so they would stop the whole thing. And so, no. Now that he's passed, maybe we can have a discussion, because it was a lifetime ban. Well, he's dead now. Maybe we can have a talk about that.
It was crazy. Kevin, this is a lot of fun, man. I got some other ideas for some shows I want to get cracking your belly up sports, but no, this was a lot of fun talking baseball. Couple of guys who know some stuff about the old days and everything. No, it was a lot of fun talking baseball and solidifying our thought that baseball's not dead, because I don't think it is.
It isn't.
I really don't think it is.
And as I said, I would be very upset if the Yankees had won, but just because I'm a Dodger fan. So, but even if they had one, I would still think baseball was in great shape. And I thought that was what baseball needed. Didn't need Cleveland versus San Diego. Didn't need that.
No, this helped a lot. No, and
it helped a lot. And so I'm looking forward to where we go.
Like when the Yankees lost and the Dodgers won, I was like, you know what? It wasn't a team that I disliked. Like, it was just one of those things. Yeah, it's one of those things. Just yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. Kevin, tell everybody where we can read and see and things, and who you got going on, and earballs and eyeballs, all that stuff.
As I mentioned, I'm in the fantasy right now. I have during the baseball season, I had an article coming out every week, but now it's football season, so I have an article come out every Friday morning. My starts and sits article comes out, and who I think should start, who I think should sit in fantasy base or football. And so, like I said, that comes out every Friday on the Belly Up fantasy sports side. If you go over there, you could read my articles. It'll probably take you 2 weeks to read everything that's on there. So that's where I am on the Belly Up fantasy side. Right now, Belly Up, we're trying to get a show called Siege and Destroy up and running. We've had a couple shows that comes out Tuesdays at 9 Central. So I figured out when Central time is now. So,
like I said, I'm the only guy in the Belly Up Network in Mountain Time Zones. That's why I think they're a little screwed up. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, and we talk about players that we're either trying to buy, sell, or keep. So if you're into fantasy football, which, about 95% of population is, I think, but so you can get over there on Tuesdays at 9 and check that out. We didn't do one last week because some sickness. Hopefully we'll be on it tomorrow. And so you got that. You can get me on Twitter or X or whatever the heck we're talking about over there at Kevin62 WILSEA. I'm also on Facebook, and so check me out. And if you have a start-sit question, you can throw it to me, and I've got a pretty dedicated fan base behind that asks me questions in that area. So you want to join in, please feel free to do so. I'll be happy to help.
There you go, Kev. No, thanks a lot for coming into the Sports Bar tonight and discussing the end of the baseball season, the World Series. It was shut down one game too soon because it would have been a game 6 would have been a lot better. Game 7 would have been fantastic, but a 6 for you would have been even to win at home at Chavez Ravine would have been even a little bit sweeter. But no, it was a lot of fun tonight. And thank you very much for coming on.
I appreciate you asking me, and I'll show. You set up a flare, I'll be here.
There we go. The 1420 Sports Bar Podcast, 4 beer sports talk and a whole lot more. Remember, we're brought to you by SeatGeek.com, the SeatGeek app. Use promo code 1420pod or 1420 seat at SeatGeek.com. And remember, everybody, it doesn't matter where you are, it's who you're with, and smart people bunt.
That's right.
You just listened to the 1420 Sports Bar Podcast. 4 beer with sports talk and a whole lot more. We are part of the Belly Up Media Network. Let's get into it.